back building is 202,000 square feet. So the rest of that space is split up between the office space in the front and the garage space in the back. Now, a lot of these racks you'll notice are empty, and that is because we have been transitioning a lot of this up to that new warehouse to make room for what you see up on these shelves, the hospital modules. So this will be more equipment for the hospitals themselves. The equipment that they've moved up to the new warehouse is the medical equipment that goes inside of the hospitals. So when we finished this warehouse in 2017, Franklin Graham said, how are we ever gonna fill this? And we were at capacity by it last year. So we are so grateful for what the Lord is doing here. And that is one thing that I like people to keep at the forefront of their mind, especially at this point of the tour. When you come in here and you see all of these cool projects that we have going on here, there's so many different things to see in here. But I always like people to keep at the forefront of their mind that everything that you see, none of it is about Samaritan's Purse or Franklin Graham or the Graham Legacy. This is all about God's story. And we are so blessed to be able to be a part of that. And we're so grateful that He is using us to be a part of that. But He can use any ministry. And so this is about Jesus, and all of the projects that we have here, they're vessels that we use to deliver the gospel. That is the why. We are an evangelical organization. So I just like people to keep that at the forefront of their mind as we walk through here. But up on the wall, you'll see a photo of our DC-8. So this is where we talk a little bit about mission aviation. So our mission aviation services, we have 28 aircraft total that we are able to use. Our largest aircraft previously were our DC-8, 767, and 757. However, we have just recently decommissioned our DC-8. So the DC-8 was gifted to us by a donor in 2015. They found it in a boneyard and fixed it up. However, they do have a certain number of hours that they can fly this plane for, and so we have come to the end of our time being able to fly the DC-8. The other reason why we are decommissioning it, or we did decommission it, is because it is the last flying DC-8 in the world, and so we had the last parts to it. So it made it very difficult. If we ever ran into any problems, we might find ourselves in an interesting situation there. Now, they also require a flight technician to fly this plane, and that is something that people do not go to school for anymore because they're not needed on newer aircraft. So it had also become exceedingly harder for us to find people that knew how to fly this plane. So we have decommissioned it. Its last trip took shoeboxes to Jamaica, and now it is parked at Liberty University. So they have a mission aviation program there, and that's where it'll stay. But God is so good. He always provides. And at the same time that we decommissioned our DC-8, we commissioned our brand new 767. And the 767 is a lot bigger than the DC-8. So we are very grateful for that. One family came forward and donated all of the money for us to be able to purchase that plane. So God is just so good. He always provides way above and beyond what we can ever imagine. So we have a hangar here in North Wilkesboro. It's a little bit smaller for things like helicopters and smaller aircraft. And then we have our larger hangar in Greensboro. And you guys are actually able to tour that if you'd ever be interested. You can go and walk through the planes. So they have sometimes, if they're not on missions, the 767 or 757 there. But no longer the DC-8. But again, we are so grateful for all of the missions that flew with us. The other cool thing about that plane is that it was a passenger plane as well. So it was able to take 32 of our DART team members with the cargo inside. So that is something that we'll really miss about it because our 757 and 767 are just cargo planes. But that's just a little bit about mission aviation. I always tell people with that one, the information is always changing. So this is the most current information I have, and there may be more current out there that is always changing, which is good, but it makes my job a little bit hard. So we're gonna go this way. For water, sanitation, and hygiene. So they're actually just right up the street here in North Wilkesboro. Those are their offices. But what they do is they go into communities around the world where the proper sanitation and hygiene practices are really lacking in those areas. They may not have that knowledge, and so as a result, these infections and diseases and viruses, they spread so much quicker in those areas. And so Liberia is kind of a good example of that, right? They just don't have those practices in place, and so things spread so quickly. And so our team will go and they will partner with the local church in those areas, and they will teach those communities about proper sanitation and hygiene practices. They will gift them these hygiene kits that we have set up over here. You guys will walk past them. but they have things like laundry soap and dish soap, towelettes and razors that they can use to implement those practices. And then they have these household water filters. So these household water filters, if you've ever watched our international disaster relief videos, will look very familiar to you. You'll see the lime green bucket in a lot of those, but they put the dirty water up top in that bucket. It's fed through the tube in the filter piece, and clean water comes out the bottom. If they care for that properly, it will last a family for 10 years. So they're able to have that right in their kitchen for those 10 years. Now, our wash team also creates our community water filtration systems. So that is what you're standing in front of here. They make these in-house at our wash facility, and these are created by Samaritans First for Samaritans First. They are specifically for our teams. So the unit that you're looking at on the front here, that is the saltwater unit. So that is reverse osmosis, desalination, and that will do 7 gallons a minute of salt water. There is a taller unit right there on the left side, and that taller unit is the freshwater unit. So that'll do 22 gallons a minute of fresh water. And then we have a diesel generator on the side that we'll be able to run these off of. So you'll notice by the design, they are able to be taken apart. So if we only need the saltwater unit or we only need the freshwater unit, then we're able to take just one of them. Now, the other reason they do this is because a lot of the places that we go, we need to be carrying things with manpower, and this trailer would be very heavy. So we have to be strategic with our designs and make them easier to break down for our team. But the trailer that you see it sitting on here is the footprint of one of those cookie sheets that we load our aircraft with. So they're able to load it up on the planes very easily. They just swing the trailer hitch right underneath. Now, once the water is filtered through these, it will go into water bladders. So this blue sack that you see sitting over here, that's a small example of what that looks like. That one, I believe, is the format of a pickup truck bed. So they'd be able to put that in the bed of a pickup truck and take it to a more remote community. Now, some of them could be as large as the area that we are standing in. It just depends on the needs of where we're going. But they are very large a lot of times. Now, the other thing about our water filtration systems is that a lot of times we don't end up bringing them back with us. We do leave them behind, because in a lot of these cases, what would be the point of bringing it if we were just going to take it back out with us? So the way that we'll do this is we will gift it to the local church that we partner with, and they're able to use that in their community as an extended outreach even after we're gone. And that is just one of the reasons why partnering with those local churches is so important. It's because they have that lasting outreach in that community that we're not able to have a lot of times. They're there when we are not, and so that would be gifted there, and that would be left behind for that community to use. So before we go in, I'll give you a little overview. So our very first field hospital was in 2016. That was a response to the earthquake in Ecuador. And kind of a fun fact about that response is that it was also the maiden voyage of our DC-8. So our DC-8 had been cleared for flight, and then less than 24 hours later, we got word that we were going to Ecuador with this field hospital. So very first flight of the DC-8 was taking our very first hospital. Since then, we have been very busy. This is the updated list, even down to Jamaica. So these are all the responses we have done since then. Now, depending on where we're going and what the response looks like, our field hospitals will look a little bit different. And so a lot of people like to ask, how much does one cost? Well, that depends on where we're going, and it depends on the tier of the hospital. So we have over 300 modules that we're able to customize these hospitals with. One of the examples being, if we needed to serve a lot of burn victims, we would bring a burn module with us for those victims. So we do try and customize them as best as we can to the patients we'll be serving. There is a tier system, so we have a tier 1 primary care outpatient. We have a tier 2, which would be medical hospital. We have a tier 2 surgical, and then we have a tier 3 trauma hospital. So the tier 3 trauma would have a minimum of 40 beds, 2 surgical theaters, and an ICU. That is our largest hospital. And if you're looking for more of a visual of what that would look like, our largest hospital to date was this response here in Turkey in 2023. And that field hospital stretched over 2 miles. So they can be very large, but they can also be a little bit smaller, like those primary care outpatients look a lot different. So for that reason, the price can be anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million per field hospital. They are all military grade, and they are all climate controlled. And just like the water filtration systems, we will leave them behind a lot of the time. So it's actually easier for us to do that than to pack everything back up and sanitize it. However, we can do that, obviously, but we do like to leave them behind. And so in a lot of cases, we'll gift them over to that community. But when we do that, we do take all of the logos off of the hospital because we are no longer operating that hospital. So all of the Samaritan's Purse signage comes off, and we do take the anesthesia machines as well because their technology over there, they're not able to run those. So we do take those with us, but everything else in the hospital would stay. Now, one final question that I like to cover before we go inside. A lot of people like to ask how we decide where we're going or why we're not certain places. A lot of people will call and say, these people really need you, why aren't you here, you know? And when God opens a door, we will walk through it. But sometimes those doors take a little bit longer to open. God's timing is always perfect. But again, we are always helping in Jesus' name. That's not something that we keep under wraps. At our very core, that is the purpose, that is the why of why we go. And so that's not something that we compromise on. And so when a country gives us permission to come in and do a field hospital, they know that they are also giving us permission to come in and bring Jesus and the gospel with us. And so again, that has to be something that they are okay with. We do always have to have permission. We have to work through the right channels. All of the logistic details, the work visas, all of those things have to be figured out. And so sometimes it may take a little longer because a country may wait until they have no other option but to invite us in if they have no other help, or they may invite us in and then promptly want us to leave because they don't want that influence of Jesus there for very long. But whatever the case, we are very grateful to serve, and when God opens those doors, we walk through them. So kind of an example of that would be this response, the really big one here in Italy, and that response is very special to Franklin. And the reason being is because Billy Graham traveled all around the world, and he preached the gospel in so many different countries. But one country that actually never gave him permission to come and speak was Italy. And that is because Italy is predominantly Catholic, and so they never gave him permission to come. But in 2020, this hospital that you see in the photo had run out of bed space. They didn't have enough space for all the COVID patients that they were taking. And so they needed help. They asked us to come and do this field hospital to support them. And so we did that. But since doing that hospital, Franklin has been invited back several times to speak about the gospel. And so God used that to further the gospel there. And so I think he does that so often with these. They're used in many more ways than we think they are. So and again, that's a reason why, because these field hospitals can help these people's physical state, and they can help them while they're on this earth, but Jesus helps them eternally. And we get the blood for our emergency field hospitals because that's not something we can pack up and take with us. And so if we're able to access a blood bank in the area we are serving in, then we will absolutely use that blood bank. But in a lot of these cases, we're not able to. We're in remote areas. We wouldn't have access to that. And so 9 times out of 10, our blood is provided by our DART members. So our DART team members are the ones providing the blood for the field hospitals. They know everybody's blood type, and that is just something that they know that they're signing up for when they serve with us. But I absolutely love that detail because I don't think there's a better picture of what Jesus did on the cross for us when he shed his blood and gave us the free gift of salvation. And we are going to share that gift of salvation, and our DART team members are giving their blood for those patients. I just think that's such a cool picture of that. There's so many amazing stories that go with that, but the guy who told me that when I first asked this question, because when I first started giving tours, I didn't know that, and somebody asked me and I thought, I don't know, where do they get the blood? But he showed me a photo, and he has a photo of a surgeon who is performing surgery, and at the same time he's giving blood. So I just think that is such an amazing picture of Jesus' love for us. But we're our tour. This is our newest project, and it's very unique for us because normally when we do something that is medical related, you guys know it is usually international and it's disaster related, yes? Oh, so this is not disaster related, and it's just domestic. This is a project that has stemmed from our team seeing a really big need here within the United States in very rural or urban areas for primary health care, dental, and vision. And so in a lot of these cases, it may not even be that people in these communities don't have access to that healthcare, but they are not able to afford it, or they're not able to afford the insurance for it. And so what we're doing is we are partnering with local churches in those areas, and we are bringing in a clinic for the weekend. So they're calling it Community Medical Outreach. CMO is the acronym for that. We already have it. Yeah, so if you hear Samaritan's Purse CMO, that is Community Medical Outreach, and we are looking to do them quarterly. So our goal is to do 4 of them a year. We've only done 3 so far. So again, they are still very new, but we are bringing in volunteer providers. So the primary healthcare providers, they're all volunteer, and then the dentists and the optometrists. But with our dental, we can do anything except for root canals and dentures. And with our vision, we can have our patients be seen by the optometrist, get their prescription, and in 10 minutes, we have a vision trailer over here you guys walk past. They have these glasses making machines, and they will make those patients a pair of glasses. So they're able to literally walk away with their vision, which I think is so incredible. So we are doing a primary care triage on all the patients that come through, even if they're just there for vision or dental. That is because they found that a lot of these patients, they may have an underlying condition that is causing their vision problems that they had no way of knowing about because they haven't been to the doctor in so long. And so they are all primary care triage, and then they choose either dental or vision. It is first come, first serve, and it is no questions asked. So if they have insurance, if they don't have insurance, they're treated the exact same. Our last clinic was in Burlington, North Carolina. We were able to serve over 350 patients at that clinic. Our registration was completely full by Saturday morning. So we generally set up on Friday. We serve all day Saturday, Sunday after church, and then we pack up and leave Monday. And all of our spots were taken by 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. So again, there's an overwhelming need for this. I think it's amazing for people to see what we're doing internationally, but it's such a different it's just a different way to reach people when you're right in your own backyard here in the United States. So I think that God is going to use this project in amazing ways. When we do that primary care triage, we have pipe and drape set up in the church sanctuary or gym, and then this tent that we're going to walk through, this is an example of what the dental setup would look like. We have some of those glasses at the end there. That is one question that I've been getting. The glasses that we make those patients, they do not all look the same. They are not all walking around in the same pair of glasses. They do get to pick different frames. So we have some of those set up, and then we'll walk past the vision trailer. But again, it's our newest project, and so we're still kind of working out the kinks and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. There may come a point in time where we need to do them for more than 2 days because the response is just so overwhelming. But it's an amazing way for providers to volunteer with us, especially the ones who wouldn't be able to commit to do 4 weeks overseas, but this is something that they can commit to for a weekend. And then non-medical volunteer options are there as well with registration, and also with the glasses machines. They said you show up day of, they train you in 30 to 45 minutes, you'll be making glasses for that day. So no experience required. It's very easy to get involved. So I'm only going to talk for a little bit because we lose generally all of the male attention span. Yeah, I try and talk fast and let you guys walk through, and then we'll talk again at the end after you guys have gotten a chance to walk through everything. But this is the garage space that I mentioned to you guys earlier. So this is 18,000 square feet of garage space back here. So it does go very far back that way. If you have a chance to walk to the back corner over there, you can see down the rows of trailers that we have in here. You can also take a chance to look out the window and see the trailers that we have parked in the lot behind us here. But I'll give you a brief overview of all this equipment, and then you guys are welcome to walk through it. So when I'm standing in front of here, this is our DRU, Disaster Relief Unit. So we have 9 of these. 5 of them are in North Carolina. That's then 3 in Texas and 1 in California. And these are pretty much like a walk-in Lowe's. So the original one was a converted NASCAR trailer. If any of you guys were thinking that's what it looked like, then there you go. So up top they have even more storage. They can fit a side-by-side or a little gator up there and just drive it right off of here when the lift is down. But down below they have chainsaw repair, chainsaws, tools, you name it down in there. They also have the Bibles. So when we do U.S. Disaster Relief, we will gift our beneficiaries with a Bible that is signed by all the volunteers that serve on that project. And that Bible at the very back of it has the 50 most asked questions of Billy Graham. So they're able to see the questions and the scripture and the answers for those questions. And those Bibles are not for purchase. They come directly from our president's office and go to those beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries are the only ones with those Bibles. We also have the orange t-shirts that a lot of you guys are wearing. They're stored right up in here. And then we have an office space in the front. So that office space is for our program manager, assistant program manager. So when we do U.S. Disaster Relief, we generally only take 3 full-time paid staff members with us. The rest are volunteers. So our volunteers are the backbone of our U.S. disaster. We are so grateful for them. So that office space again would be for our program manager, assistant program manager, and then our driver mechanic is that 3rd paid staff member. So the driver mechanic for the DRU. So our DRV is what you see here, the box truck. That is a disaster relief vehicle. So we have over 70 of these spread throughout the United States. The way that we do that is by partnering with local churches. Those are what we call our lighthouse churches. and we will give them one of these box trucks. They're able to use all the tools in the back in their community throughout the year. But then when we give them a call, they know that within a certain mile radius, they'll show up with that truck and some volunteers. So it allows us to have them in strategic locations around the United States and allows them to be able to serve their community with what's inside. Then over here we have our rebuild trailer. So rebuild trailer, I tell people, do not ask me what anything is inside. Ask the rebuild volunteers that you have here today. They are a lot more familiar with that than I am.
We've been in it for the last
Yeah, so you guys may have PTSD from that one. You may not want to go inside there. Yes, so we don't always do rebuild with our U.S. disaster relief, but if we see that there is a need for that in that area, then we will. When we do rebuild, though, we do stay until the very last application is complete. Reason being is a lot of these places, they see so much activity as soon as the disasters hit the news and the media and everybody's talking about it, but as soon as that blows over, a lot of these people are left in the exact same situation that they were before. And we know that we are representing Jesus when we go there, and when Jesus starts a good work in us, he sees that through to completion. And so with these projects, we want to do the same, but more importantly with those relationships with those people. And so in a lot of times, we are there at these places for 3 to 4 years. That is what's going on in Western North Carolina from Hurricane Helene. We will be there for the next 3 to 4 years, just with all of the rebuilding that we have going on up there. So thank you guys for helping with that. And then we have our shower trailers and our kitchen trailers. So we don't always bring these with us, but if we know that the church we're partnering with wouldn't have those amenities for our volunteers, we will bring them. So if you volunteer with us, you have 2 options. You could be a day of volunteer, or you could be overnight. So our day of volunteers will bring us at lunch, and they will leave when the work is done for the day. But our overnight volunteers, they have a minimum of 3 nights of service and a maximum of 2 weeks. And so we want to make sure for those volunteers that we have a shower for them at the end of the day, and that we are able to give them 3 meals a day. So that shower and kitchen trailer, that's what those are for. And then we have bunk trailers for the paid staff that go with us as well, because they are on the road with us for months at a time, oftentimes. So these are used in Alaska with our Operation Heal Our Patriots program. So this is something that was started because we just saw a really big need for couples, or one of them or both of them are veterans from 9/11 on, and after coming back from serving with our country, they have psychological and or physical wounds that have kind of made them a different person, and as a result their marriage is really suffering. And so my understanding of the story is that Franklin was in Alaska because he loves Alaska and he spends a lot of time there hunting and fishing, and there was a cabin that was for sale in this general area where now Operation Heal Our Patriots is, and he thought this would be a really good spot for a marriage retreat for these couples, because he obviously has a child, Edward, who was served with our country, and so this is something that's very close to his heart. And so for these couples, they can either apply for Operation Heal Our Patriots themselves, or sometimes family and friends will apply for those couples. We will take way more applications than we can actually send every single year. So we look at those applications, we pray over those applications, and then we will talk to references, so family and friends of those couples, and make sure that the need is really there. And then we will choose the most dire needs out of the applications we get, and we will send them on a week-long marriage retreat. So it is 150 couples a year, about 10 couples a week. And they will go to Alaska, and they will just have team members of ours just pouring into their marriage. They have marriage counseling, vow renewals, baptisms. They also have a lot of fun things for them. So excursions they can do, like bear watching and fishing. They have these planes that they're able to fly. So many cool things. And so these chairs are for the veterans that come with us to Operation Heal Our Patriots that otherwise wouldn't be able to participate in all of those fun excursions that we have. So these are pretty much all terrain. They have that rack on the side, they can put their gun in there, and they can go pretty much anywhere we can go in these. The seat will lift up and out. I mean, they are kind of cool once they get going, but they can also pull stuff behind them. They're able to get around really easily in these. But we do know that ultimately a week is not enough to fix a marriage. And so after these couples go through this program with us, they are granted lifetime access to a chaplain with our team, and they have reunions for those couples, and they also are invited to join our Team Patriots. So this box truck here, you guys notice it looks a little different than our normal DRV with Samaritan's First on the side. This is a Team Patriot one. So Team Patriot, they are all alumni of Operation Heal Our Patriot. So they are all veterans that have served with our country, and they are serving right alongside our U.S. disaster relief teams. So these teams will generally be paired up with a homeowner that is also a veteran. So they end up having a really cool connection with that homeowner. but it also provides those team members with a community of people who have walked through the same things that they have. They also have a mission. So many of them feel like they don't have a mission in life anymore. And so this for them is a way to serve God and serve others well. These chairs will also take with our Team Patriot, so they're able to get involved just as much as anybody else. They just put 1 or 2 of these in the back of that box truck there. But our Team Patriot, God uses their stories in so many incredible ways. We have one homeowner, we showed up to his house with our regular U.S. Disaster Relief team, and we often will bring that Billy Graham Evangelical Association chaplain with our team. And so he was with this team at that time, and our homeowner came outside and he said, you can do whatever you need to do in my yard, but I don't want to hear about God, and I don't want to hear the name Jesus. And so our team, they took a little step back, they completed their work for that day, and they went home, they did a little research on that gentleman, and they discovered that he was a veteran. And so the next day, they sent Team Patriot to his house, and he was like a completely different person. Wow. He was outside, wanted to be a part of what they were doing, wanted to hear their stories. He was very interested in their stories. And at the end of our time serving that gentleman, when we presented him with the Bible that was signed by those team members, he just broke down in tears, and he said, I want Jesus, and he was saved. So again, it is just that really special connection that they have that somebody like me could never have there. I haven't walked through the same things that they have walked through, and I can't understand the same way that they can. So God uses their stories and their testimonies in such amazing ways. And I love when they're training because they'll come through on tours, and I love to ask them about their stories because they're just so incredible, and they've often been through so much, but I just can see as they're talking, like, I just know God is going to use this in somebody else's life in such an amazing way. So on the tail end of our tour, for those of you who are tired of standing, so this is the loading zone for our trailers that you see here. So these are the ones that are taken to our hangar in Greensboro. So if you notice that area up there with all the racks that are empty, that's kind of what it looks like once we take the field hospital somewhere. So a lot of people say, is that where Jamaica was? But that's what it looks like. So we will load these trailers up. Each one can take 5 cookie sheets in the back, and then they'll be sent to our Greensboro hangar. They figure out all of the weighing and the logistic details here. So when they take them there, all they have to do is load them onto the plane in the exact order that they're in, and all of the weight distribution is figured out beforehand. So they will load them up where you see the hooks over there, and they will take them over and they'll weigh them. There's a scale underneath the bag, and then they will bring them over here and load them up. So once the nets are dropped from those hooks, where you can see there's a net hanging from that hook from the ceiling over there, it'll look something like what you see here with that generator right there, ready to go. Yeah. So they'll bring them over here and they will put them on the scissor lift and load them into the back of the trailer. Now I'm told that our 767, they need 6+ of these trailers to fill that. So if you think there's 5 cookie sheets in the back of each trailer, that is a lot of cargo. But we'll just walk this way, and these generators that you'll pass, those are used in our field hospitals. And then you'll also pass oxygen machines. So those are used for the medical grade oxygen that we need in our field hospitals as well. But then all the other boxes and things, people ask me, what is that? Where did that come from? This area, things are always changing. They're always in and out. So sometimes I know what things are, sometimes I don't. This team is working 24/7, so if we get a call that we're able to take something somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning, this team is in here loading up those trailers and getting them to Greensboro. We want to be as quick as possible. So things change literally overnight in here, which is good, but sometimes it results in me looking like I have no idea what anything over here is. This is our last little segment of the tour here. This is our IT team that works with our hospital network. So this is a very small part of the IT team here, obviously. IT has something to do with everything that we do here. They are a crucial part of our team, and they do way above and beyond what I could even tell you in this little nutshell. So I'm just going to talk about this little team here and what they do. They're often on the ground with us. When we go and set up a hospital, obviously we have to bring the technological points, and so we have to bring our own network. So we'll use Starlink a lot of cases for these hospitals. They'll use what they call a network in a box, and they'll put all of the tools that they need for that in a box. So these black boxes that you see over here, they have toolkits. So those are all the little tech pieces that they need to make a hospital get up and running. So sometimes the computers and the laptops and the tablets, all of those pieces, this team is, you'll see all of these boxes around here, they're putting together these packets to send with these hospitals, and then they are there on the ground at the beginning of setup to make sure all those pieces are put into place correctly. Now the other thing I like to highlight about our IT team in general, because they are so important to what we do, is a few years ago, Franklin got very unsettled about all of our things being up on an external cloud, because as you guys know, we do help in Jesus' name, and at any moment's notice someone could decide they don't like that and all of our stuff could be lost, and that would be very detrimental. And so he had our IT team stop what they're doing, put their heads together, and create our very own cloud. So we have all of our things up on our very own cloud. It's called the Ark, and it is in Colorado. Yes. And we've actually invited other ministries to come up onto that cloud as well, so they can know that their information is secure and all of those things. So I like to point that out, to use it as an example to say that this team is so very talented. They have to do a lot of things that another IT team may not even have thought of, things like that, where it's like, all right, we're going to create our own cloud, guys. All right, we're going to do this a different way. And so this team is very good at doing things on the fly, and so many talented people here that could be working somewhere else and maybe even making a lot more money somewhere else, but they choose to be here because they want to be here and they believe in furthering the kingdom. So it is amazing to have them, such an important piece of the puzzle here. But now you guys have made it through the tour, so congratulations.